Hello, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday. It is September 1st. I just can't believe how fast this year is going by. It's just blowing my mind that it's already September. But we in the Northeast had a beautiful day today, and I hope where you live, you had a beautiful day today as well. So this month, for the month of September, we actually have 5 Sundays in September. So we'll get to see this wonderful stamp set 5 different times, which I have so many ideas already planned. We are going to actually this month be making 22 cards with the Regal Floral set. It is a great stamp set. It's coming out in the upcoming mini catalog on September 4th, and it is a distinctive ink stamp set. It is a cling stamp set. It has 10 stamps. 4 of those stamps are sentiments, and the other 6 are either floral images, leaves, or a splatter background. And I love having a splatter background, and we're going to be able to use that tonight. I am also using the Simply Said stamp set to just add some sentiments to this month's cards. So let me put this aside. I've got everything mounted for tonight off to my right. And let me show you the cards we're going to be making. I am going to do a one-sheet wonder that I put together. And once we chop it up, these are the cards we're going to make. My color combination, I'm using lots of colors tonight. I'm actually using 2, 4, 6 different colors, but the colors that you're going to really see stand out are the red, white, and blue. It is Labor Day weekend, so I want it to be a little bit patriotic. Here is our second card that we'll be making. And this is our third card that we'll be making. And then finally, we'll end with a birthday wishes card. And that's what this one looks like. So let's get started so we can see how we are going to do all of this. So let's first talk about what we're going to need for materials for this week's cards. So to start with, we are going to need a 6x6 piece of basic white cardstock, and we'll be doing our stamping on this. Then for our card bases, we're making 4 cards tonight, so we're going to need 4 5.5 by 8.5 pieces of thick basic white. I'm just going to put those up ahead of me. And let me just get the rest of this out. We're also going to be using Night of Navy cardstock. And we have lots of little pieces we'll need of that. So let me just pull all of those out. So we're going to need 2 pieces that measure 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. We're going to need 2 pieces that measure 1 5/8 by 5 3/8. We're going to need another piece that measures 5/8 by 3 5/8, and then we're just going to need a scrap that we're going to put behind a sentiment. For designer series paper tonight, we're going to be using the Season of Elegance. Let me get these out. This is beautiful designer series paper. We're using the solid side. I'll show you in just a minute the other side of it. We're going to need 6 strips that measure 3/4 by 3 3/3. So 3/4 across and 3 3/4 long. 6 pieces of those. We're also going to need 6 pieces that measure 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches. And we're going to need 2 pieces that measure 4 by 5 1/4. And if I turn them over, you can see what a beautiful piece of designer series it is. And it comes in lots of different colors. So that is pretty sharp. And then we're also going to need some basic white cardstock. We're going to need one piece that measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And we're going to need a piece that measures 3 1/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches. We're going to need a piece that measures 2 1/4 inches by 1 1/8 inch. We're going to need a piece that measures 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inches. And then our final piece is going to measure, this one is just a scrap. So it's just a piece that was cut off. Okay, we're going to get started with some stamping. So I'm going to put the piece of 6x6 basic white paper over another piece of paper just to keep the surface clean. And I am going to be using all but 2 stamps from this set tonight. So I'm going to start with the larger image of flowers, and I'm going to be stamping that in Cherry Cobbler all across this piece of paper. So I'm just going to kind of randomly add my images. Some will be darker than others. There we go. That looks good. Now I'm going to take some Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to stamp some leaves to go with these. And I'm going to use this stamp for the leaves. I've been stamping most of the weekend, getting ready for lots of September things, and I have so much ink on my hands, it's not even funny. I have washed and washed and washed and gotten a lot of it out, but I'm telling you, it is just all over the place. When I take my shower tonight and wash my hair, that's when it will come out, I think. I was hoping it was going to come out when I did the dishes, but not all of it did. There we go. So that flower was stamped in Night of Navy ink, one of my favorite blues. And now I'm going to stamp some more greenery in Old Olive. So I'm really using my favorite colors tonight. I'm using some of the neutrals, and I'm using some of the Regals, and those really are some of my favorite color combinations. Now let's get some more on here. Now I'm going to take the smallest floral image, this one here, and I'm going to be stamping it in Pretty Peacock. So I'm going to be trying to fill in some of the spaces. If I find that I need to stamp something again, I can always do that. But right now I just want to fill in some of these spaces before I use the splatter stamp. It's okay if I stamp over something. That is perfectly fine. So that is starting to look really good. I'm really liking what I'm seeing. So I'm going to go on, and now I'm going to be using the Blackberry Bliss, and I am going to use the splatter stamp right here and start filling in this background. So this is just going to let me stamp where there are some white at, spots left over and just fill it in with some of this splatter. Some of the splatter is going to get on some of the flowers. That is perfectly okay. I can stamp 2 generations if I want and have some lighter images. But this just helps fill in some of that white space so that when I cut this, we're not going to get a lot of white left over. Okay, one more spot right here, here, and here. Okay, looking good. Now when I cut it, if I need to go back in, I can do that as well. But here we have what our stamped piece looks like. So we've just got some beautiful images all over the place. So now I'm going to cut this. And I am going to do a very simple cut on this tonight. I am going to start with, so this is 6 by 6. I'm going to cut it into, to start, I'm going to cut it into 3 by 3. And then this first piece, I am going to then cut, 3 by 6. Now I'm cutting these two in 3 by 3 pieces. So there's our first set. I'm going to here cut this. I'm going to actually cut, I want this to be 5 1/4 inches long. So I'm going to cut 3/4 of an inch off and just put that aside. And then I am going to cut these into 1 1/2 inch pieces. So a very simple way to cut this up. Now I'm going to start doing some layering, and I have one more bit of cutting to do. So these pieces are all going onto a piece of Night of Navy cardstock. And I'm going to just use my Stampin' Seal. And I'm going to put this piece on first. Remember, these are cut just 1/8 of an inch bigger. And then this piece will go next. They just all look pretty in all directions. There we go. So those two are ready. Then I'm going to take these two, and they will go on that 1 5/8 inch by 5 1/4 piece. There we go. And we'll do the same with this piece. And I can turn these around, use them in any direction that I may want to use them in. There we go. All right, so let's fold these pieces. And I'm going to grab my bone folder. There we go. The stamping didn't take too long on this card, and so this is a quick way to make several cards. Now 2 of these card fronts Two of these card fronts are going to get the larger pieces of the Season of Elegance paper. I hate to cover this beautiful gold up, but the red fit my pattern that I was using, and I have been using the paper on the other side for some other cards. I felt with tonight's cards, the gold side just really took away from the cards. For this smaller piece of basic white, these are all going to be greetings. I'm going to take the longer pieces, and I cut these just a little longer so that I have some wiggle room, and I will just cut the extra end off. But I'm going to start by putting the top and the bottom piece on first, and this way it's going to help me so everything is centered at the end. So top and bottom piece on first. There we go. And I'll just show you a reminder, there's not a lot of space between all of these, but I want to keep it as even as I can. So I'm going to then I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. There we go. And just two more pieces left. I'm not going to put this one all the way down yet, so I want to make sure I have enough room for this piece, and I can adjust that other piece, and I do. So that is perfect. So I'll put both of those down, and then I'm just going to take my snips and trim off this extra paper. So we have our next backing. There we go. And this is going to go on the front of the next card. And I'll just center that. So there's 3 card fronts ready. Now for this one, we are going to be turning it this way. And what I am going to do is cut these pieces into some banners. And I'm just cutting 3 of them at a time. So I don't have to do this 6 different times. I cut these the same length, but as you may have remembered from seeing the front of the card, they're at different lengths when we look at the front of the card. So you can see how I put them in so they're just in all different lengths. And we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to start, and we're going to be covering these ends up. So I'm going to start, I'm going to make sure I got the card opening the way I want it to. I'm going to start on the 2 ends, and I am going to have those be the longest. And then I'm going to just alternate how I'm going to be putting them all down. And I'm not going to really push them all down because, again, I want to make sure I have room to place them all. And I'm just going to trim this one just a tad. There we go. So now I can put them all down, and I'm going to choose which one of these I think looks the best sideways. I think I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to add this to the top of the card. There we go. So that one's almost done. This one here is going to have this piece go down, up and down, but I'm going to want to trim this a bit so that it's the 5 inches. And so I'm going to trim it on both ends to make it seem like it is only being layered on the sides. So I want it to be 5 inches. So I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off here, and then I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off here. So now when I put this on, it's going to match the length of the panel. I think I'm going to go this way. Okay, that card front is ready. Now on this one, I'm just going to be taking one of the panels, and I think I will use this one, and I am just going to put this on the front of the card like this. And then for this one, I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut this at a diagonal so that we'll have one end going in one corner and the other end going in the other corner. So I'm just going to line those corners up into the cutting track and cut through those layers. This piece is going to go at the bottom of the card, and this piece is going to go up here to the top of the card. So let me attach those. So we're going to end up with four very different looking cards when it's all said and done. And that's what makes it nice about doing a one-sheet wonder. You get to do the stamping, though you can do a one-sheet wonder with the designer series paper as well. Okay, now let's do some stamping for our greetings. So let's just get all of this out of the way and bring these up. In this very long one, we are going to be stamping Let's Celebrate in Cherry Cobbler ink. So let me get that ink out. And we're going to stamp this all the way to the right. Just like that. That one's done. Our next one, we're going to be stamping the birthday greetings. Both of these are from the Simply Said. This is a nice, bold birthday greetings. Then we're going to be stamping on this one, the Sending Love Your Way. There we go. On this one, to get it on this small one, you have to really pull that stamp down so that you don't have the L and the love go off of the piece of paper. And then finally, our last greeting is going to be wishing I were there to give you a hug. What a perfect greeting. And that's going to go on this piece of basic white. And again, just trying to make sure that I get all of the letters on the stamp. Okay, all of our stamping is done now, and we can just finish putting together our cards. So, we do need these two pieces of blue. Okay, wishing you were there to give me a hug. This piece is going to go behind it. So that is going to be this card right here. So I'm going to add some adhesive right down the center. And then I'm going to be placing this so we have, and we want to have an even amount on both sides. So I'm just going to trim that a little bit. And then this is going to go, whoops, let me just move one of these pieces down when I have a little space. So you usually can pick up your adhered images, I think up to like a half hour after you adhere them, or about that, maybe 20 minutes, without doing damage to your card. An easier way to do this is to heat set it. And if you use your heat tool, it will come off really nicely. So that's just a little hint. You just make sure that that's where I want to go. There we go. Now we're going to have room. And I'm going to attach these with dimensionals. So let me grab my dimensionals. Okay, here is card number 1. Okay, let's get ready for card number 2. This one is our birthday wishes card. And so all that we are going to do, again, this one we're going to just use adhesive, and we're going to put some snail on the, Stampin' Steel on the back of this, and I'm going to come right into the middle and I am going to just add the birthday wishes there. Simple, easy. Card number 2 is done. This one here, I'm going to add adhesive down the entire length of this scrap piece. And then I'm going to bring it right up to the edge. It's going to match the banners, and card number 3 is done. And then for our last card, I am going to take this image and some blue again, some of the navy, and I am going to center this. Whoops, didn't go far enough, so let's fix that. I usually put a really long piece on and then trim, but I had cut this so it was the right length. Let's see how I did. A little off, so I'm going to just trim a little over here. There we go. And I'm going to use dimensionals on this as well. And that is going to be our final card for tonight. 4 cards in about a half hour. Not bad. Using our One Sheet Wonder. And there is our 4th card. Beautiful cards. Great projects to start our month off. So let me show you all these cards again. So we have this one here, this one, and then we have this one and this one. Make sure they all get on the... So those are our kickoff projects for the month of September. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fun Fold Friday. Simply Stamping Sunday. I will be back next Friday night for another edition of Fun Fold Friday. And of course I'll be back here next Sunday for another edition of Simply Stamping Sunday. I have some beautiful cards to share with you next week. I'm really excited about it. I hope you enjoyed this session. Hope you have a great Labor Day tomorrow and a great week this upcoming week. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.